Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to the show. You're watching Let's Talk. My name is Anwar Mir and we are discussing today the terrorist attacks in Mali and in Paris, something which cannot have escaped anybody's attention, something that has a dramatic effect on the dynamics of the volatile situation, not just in Europe and Africa but throughout the world. Ladies and gentlemen, to discuss this with me, I have two panel members. The first to my right requires no introduction, but in any event, for the sake of protocol, I should do so. His name is Talha Ahmed, a National Council member of the Muslim Council of Britain. Talha bhai, assalamu alaikum, welcome to the show.
Islam, and pleasure to be here again.
It's you're welcome, it's our privilege. To my left is Hassan Jabati, who's the General Secretary of an organization known as Danaya, which is a Malian association, and he, as I understand it, is the Secretary General. Hassan, assalamu alaikum, welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you very much indeed for taking your time out to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, this is an interactive show. At the bottom of your screens in due course, there will be a telephone number. Should you wish to participate in the program by asking any questions or indeed making a comment, feel free to do so. Before we begin with taking calls, perhaps I should ask our guests to give us their take on the recent goings on in both Paris and in Mali. Talha bhai, what would you like to share with our viewers, your observations as an analyst of the political situation, the real situation of what's going on, or what has been taking place in both Paris and in Mali?
Like almost everyone else, I was shocked and horrified when I learned about attacks in Paris. And I was very surprised because I didn't expect anything of that scale. You can live with, well, it's still unacceptable, but when one or two small incident, 1, 2, 3 people die, in many ways comprehensible. But when you get 129 people, almost commando style coordinated attack, it really stunned me. So I was really, really horrified. And so rightly, I think the world was, in solidarity with the people of France and especially the victims of that attack. But what followed Paris attack, I think, is more profound and in many ways more disturbing, because instantly the focus shifted on ISIL and more attack in Paris, and we hear now in Britain that we could possibly attack Syria. Some countries like Belgium and France talking about closing down mosques and so on. And the reason this is alarming is because none of this response actually addresses why the attack may have taken place in the first place.
Well, why don't you tell us, why do you think there is the root cause, if any, of the reason behind these attacks? Are they provoked? Are they revenge attacks? What are they? You tell us.
Well, I don't think anybody has the answer, but we can go by certain facts that we know. So one of the things we know is that the lifestyle of those who are involved in Paris attack, extensively documented in press. And what we know is that some of them were drug dealers, running bars, and so on. None of them were Muslims in any sense, in the sense that you would understand them to be devout Muslims, in the sense of going to a regular mosque or previously known to be extremist as such. So surely, if anything, it's not the religion or their extremist understanding of religion that has played a part. France is a very complex society. You've got a large number of Algerians, and whatever people say, Paris attack was not the worst.
Right.
In 1961, there was even worse incident. French police effectively shot dead over 200 Algerian protesters. Some of those people, victims and their families, are still alive. And so France, in many ways, is a very volatile society. So there could be a whole range of reasons why people may feel aggrieved, people may feel it's right to take arms. I'm not saying it is right, but people may feel they're justified, why people may feel that the only way to do something is to resort to violence. But what we do know is that they were not radicalized in mosques. They were not product of extremist preachers as such. They were not product of organized religious activity. And so when you instantly shift the focus towards mosques and so-called religious organization, I think it just completely misreads and actually plays to the hand of ISIL, who wants to present this manufactured narrative that there is a clash between Muslims or Islam and West. And that way we only make the problem worse.
Did the French government not declare war on Islamic State?
Well, they have. first of all, I think the talk of war, I fully understand the grievances and how shocked French nation are, and I fully understand the need for justice and perpetrators being brought to the justice. But the talk of war, I don't think assists.
If I may interject there, I'm talking about prior to the Paris bombings, was France not bombing Islamic State?
France and US are the two major forces who have been consistently bombing at targets in ISIL. And so what that also shows that clearly bombing is not working. So further bombing is not going to make it any...
Well, let me play devil's advocate. And for the record, of course, there's no debate that any civilian loss of life anywhere around the world, whether it's Paris or Palestine or wherever, is unacceptable. So let's get that clear. But for the purposes of debate and for the purposes of playing devil's advocate, if one country is at war with another territory, whether it's recognized internationally or not, if there is a war situation, then if one is bombing the other,
it becomes a fair play. Precisely.
France bombing the territory of Islamic State. If Islamic State then has
retaliates in the way it does, so effectively what it does, I don't think it still makes it right to attack.
No, I'm not suggesting it is. I'm not suggesting civilian loss anywhere is unacceptable.
I've
made that clear.
It only escalates the situation further and make it right in the eyes of some. To go up
I'm talking in terms of perception.
Precisely. So if you're a die-hard ISIL supporter, you can't compete in firepower with France. You know that.
Of course.
But what you do know is that if you really hell-bent on, putting a device on explosives somewhere in a crowded place in Paris, that is probably doable. So the farther you escalate, the more likely that they will do that. The other thing also we need to realize is that if we destroy ISIL, what's next? Because the Iraqi government and the Syrian government has not shown to be capable of governing for all of the people. And so if the ISIL came about because of a void, because of the chaos and instability and utter hopelessness. So if we now destroy ISIL, what's next? So I don't think it's good enough to go up to ISIL and destroy them. I think what needs to happen is we need to think very carefully, how can we win the battle of minds and hearts so that the Iraqi government, so the Syrian government, whether it's through Assad or somebody else, they can genuinely be a participatory government that engages everyone and represents the aspiration of all people. We're not doing that at the moment.
Thank you very much. Let me go to Hassan. Hassan, in terms of the circumstances in Mali, what would you like to share with our viewers as to your observations as to what's going on there?
Last Friday there were an attack, as everybody knows about it, and it's Al-Murabitun, a jihadist movement linked to Al-Qaeda, said to be behind the attack. What we can say is maybe there is a link, but we have no proof, because France helped Mali in 2013 to kick the jihadists who occupied all the north half of Mali. And they are still, the French troops are still putting pressure on the small jihadist group who are operating sometime in the north of Mali. I think maybe that can be a link.
Well, I'll tell you what is a link. You referred to the 2013, early 2013, French intervention in Mali. Was it not the case that Ahmed Koulibaly, who was the terrorist who killed bombed the supermarket, was he not of Malian ancestry?
Yes, he's Malian. He's Malian. I can say.
Sure.
Parent and everything.
I mean, he was born in France, but his ancestry is Malian.
Malian.
So, could it be the case? I mean, hypothetically, I don't know this chap, right? But because of his Malian ancestry, because of the proximity between the French intervention and engagement in Mali, where they were effectively involved, right? Could there be a nexus? I mean, was there a reprisal? Was it a retaliatory attack? What was it?
I don't think so, because I can't see the link. Because Ahmed Koulibaly said he's working for another organization different from the jihadist movement in Mali. It's not the same. So usually what we should know is when you attack one jihadist movement, you become enemy of all of them. Usually that's how it's worked.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, it may well be the case that Ahmed Coulibaly says, I'm actually aligned to this jihadist movement.
Yes.
But the fact is that one cannot take away the fact that they come in various guises. One may be aligned to Al-Qaeda, but they would nevertheless sympathize with another jihadist movement because they believe that they have the same cause. But what I'm saying is that the ultimate connection, of course, is the volatile situation, as you put it, I think, in Paris. France seems to be, on the one hand, experiencing these difficulties, but one cannot divorce from the picture the fact that it is engaging, not only sympathizing but actively engaging in military activity in Northern Africa.
Yeah, I think the other issues, if I'm not mistaken, the attack in Mali actually took place. Essentially, was a siege on a hotel, at a fairly luxurious upmarket hotel. France is Mali is a former colony of France. France has heavy involvement, both military as well as economic involvement, and only a couple of years ago, France was actively engaged in military activity in Mali. So I haven't looked in detail, but I wouldn't be surprised if that hotel was particularly targeted because the Western presence, particularly French presence, would be quite high. So
that would be an attention factor, wouldn't it?
Yeah, precisely. So I wouldn't rule out that if the Mali attack wasn't part of, in some loosely connected way, part of the Paris attack. But the other point we need to remember is that what does ISIL and the likes wants to do? The likes of ISIL wants to be seen that they can strike at the heart of Europe, at far-flung places, right? So it is in their interest, even if they have the slightest of connection, they would want to claim that they were behind all of this because that gives them a sense of power
and legitimacy.
Sure,
and relevance. Let me put this to you. I mean, as I said earlier, the world was quite rightly outraged at the loss of civilian life in Paris. If I could cast your mind back, not to the decade that Hassan was talking about, but not so long ago, 1,700 Palestinian civilians were killed by the Lebanese militia, and that was in the refugee camps of Beirut, Sabra, Shatila. At that time, the world did not express such outrage. We're talking about 1,700 civilians in a refugee camp.
You don't need to go that far.
I'm sure there are a number of examples.
Nigeria, for example, there are 2,000. There are reports of 2,000 people being killed by this Boko Haram.
But the reason I'm flagging
this year,
the reason I'm flagging up the the situation in Beirut is because the Americans were actually funding the Lebanese and the Israeli army, who were actually watching. They did very little. They weren't doing anything. They were observing. They saw evil taking place, but they did absolutely nothing. They stood by, contrary to the kind of principles that they
I think the argument that our sense of outrage is selective, I think, is fairly strong.
Why is that? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, why is it? I mean, it's difficult to say exactly why, but one of the obvious reasons could be is that if you look at the media, for example, the reason all of this comes to the attention is because of the unfettered and intensive coverage that world media gives, and almost exclusively all of these global media are based in the West, and somehow these media obviously feel it more important to give coverage to their own people as opposed to people that they don't recognize to be their own. Does it make it justified or no? I think we should cover every tragedies in equal manner because every lives matter. In the same week that you had the Paris attack, not 129 people didn't die, but around 40 died in Lebanon at a suicide attack. In the same week, I think a couple of days ago. You barely heard a mention of it in the media. But media may be selective, but actually many people do remember them. I mean, I attended a memorial service in Walthamstow, not far from where we are sitting today. And although it was done on the back of Paris attack to commemorate the victims, everyone that spoke, including the organizers, it was quite a moving thing where they did remember and reflect on all the victims. So I think beyond the media glory, people generally recognize all the atrocities and genuinely concerned. But unfortunately, media is very selective. Government is very selective, and we need to make sure that that situation does not, does not prevail for too long.
Thank you very much indeed. We must go on to a break. When we come back, we will carry on with this discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, just a brief reminder that today's topic is about Paris and Mali. We certainly live in very concerning times, and hopefully the more debate that we have, the more we can understand and deal with things which are totally unacceptable on an international level, whoever the victims may well be. Do stay with us, and we'll see you soon, inshallah.